Hi everyone, this is Laura Doyle. Welcome to Still Spunky. I'm starting this podcast to share with you some inspirations, insight, and tools to help you with life's toughest challenges that you may be going through, and with the help of others who may be going through the same thing. I know personally, the past 5 years for me has shook my world and turned it upside down. Not by one or two things, but actually by quite a few. And I'd like to discuss them with you today so you get to know me a little bit and know exactly, the things that I do understand and how you feel. I might be there, right there with you. This all started about 5 years ago. Now, mind you, growing up, I had a wonderful family. I had a mom and dad, brother and sister. We had a great life. Little ups and downs and bumps on the road like every family does, but in all, we were really a great family, and I was raised very well. I was raised with morals and values, which is something that's fantastic, that I try to instill in my children. But 5 years ago, like I said, is when things all started. It was about 2020. Not had anything to do with COVID, believe it or not. My father-in-law was in a motorcycle accident. He was coming back from Sturgis. He rides there every year with one of his best friends, Rogue. And then they separate somewhere around in Pennsylvania. So he was by himself at the time. He got into a motorcycle accident. He was helicoptered to the closest hospital. And he was banged up. But the biggest thing is he did not have a helmet on. Helmet laws really do matter, even though I know most motorcyclists do not like them. But unfortunately, he did not have them on because there was no helmet laws in Pennsylvania. So he was in pretty bad shape. About 10 days later, my husband and my brother-in-law unfortunately had to make the decision. He wound up having 6 strokes, 2 of them in the stem of his brain. There nothing they could do at that time. So unfortunately, they did what they had to do, and that was in August of 2020. By September, we were still mourning, of course, but we were excited to bring our daughter to college, SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia. Beautiful town, beautiful, love it there. So we were bringing our daughter to college and left her there. Just, so excited for her to go on this journey for herself. And she's a great artist. So learning more would have been fantastic. Unfortunately, come January, the end of January of 2021, she wound up getting very sick. She wound up in the hospital twice in Savannah. They didn't say they found anything. They didn't know why she was getting so sick. And she was also very, very tiny, like weight-wise. Now, she is tiny. She's a small, petite little girl, but she was about 80 pounds at the time, which was crazy. So we picked her up right around Valentine's Day. It was about 2 weeks later after her going through the hospital there twice, and we brought her home. Brought her to our family doctor, and he told me to bring her to the emergency room immediately. She was very, very sick. So I brought her there immediately. Straight to the emergency room. The doctor came out and told me that she is in serious critical condition because she was her sugar, which was the problem, was so high, way over 800. And she was 78 pounds. And her blood pressure was very low, and her heart was racing, and it was just not good. She wound up having type 1 diabetes. Later on, I found out that the hospital in Savannah did actually have a high A1C on some of her blood work, but they never said anything to her or I or my husband. Nevertheless, she has type 1 diabetes. Shortly after that, a few months later, she wound up with underactive thyroid, which is very common with type 1 diabetes. They go hand in hand. So she wound up going through all the courses to make sure, I did also, to make sure that we knew how to keep her sugar in check. She went all the way to 2022, September of 2022, having to go, of course, to her diabetic doctors and all of this to make sure that she was good and stable. Come September of 2022, she wound up getting very sick, very, very sick, throwing up all over the place. Couldn't stop it. At this point, because she took steroids, because of her underactive thyroid, we had to make sure that everything was okay, so we brought her to the hospital. By the time we got her to the hospital, they came out and told me that she's in critical condition again, and I didn't understand why. This is crazy. So, twice in 2 years, right? They said that she had a very low sodium level, under 100, which normally would have killed somebody else. And I asked them, well, how is she still alive? And they said, well, the only way that they can explain it was it happened over a time period. So it happened very slowly over time where her body got used to it. So they raised her sodium. They have to be very, very diligent and careful with that because you can actually get brain damage. You can get a lot of different things that can happen if you raise the sodium too quickly. So she stayed in the hospital for a few days, and they got her sodium back up and they released her. 2 days after she got out of the hospital, she started drooling. She started laughing hysterically, crying hysterically. I brought her back to the hospital immediately. I thought maybe her sodium was not good, and I didn't know what was going on. Went into the triage nurse, and then all of a sudden she was trying to explain to me while we're waiting to get a room to go inside the emergency room that the triage nurse was her surrogate mom and my brother was the sperm donor for her. At that point, my brother had been gone for about 4 years. He passed away about 4 years before then. I had no idea what to take of that, but just after she had told me that, we wound up getting called back into the emergency room. We got a room. So I said, listen, check her sodium immediately. She was just here a few days ago. Sodium came back fine. But then she started talking to me to go get her mom. Devastating is not even the word for that. I had no idea what was going on. I was trying to stay calm, as mom does, to try to keep everything level so you don't freak out your kids. My husband had left work. He was in the parking lot and they wouldn't let him in to the emergency room because they were only allowing one parent in at a time due to COVID rules. So I videoed her without her knowing. It was not an actual video. All you see is a sheet, but you can hear her and my conversation, and she's telling me to go get her mom. She wants to tell her mom that she's a lesbian. Well, I already knew that for years. She wanted to tell her mom that she thinks her mom's a lesbian. Well, no, I'm not, but okay. So all this conversation, she's just getting delusional. I sent it to my husband in the parking lot where he was sitting waiting. And I said, they're going to admit her. They don't know what's going on. She's not making any sense. By the next day, they wanted to give her a psych evaluation. I said, listen, that's not the problem, but go for it. I don't care. Do whatever you have to do. Let's find out what's going on. So me and my husband were actually allowed in the psych ward together. I don't know. I guess COVID rules don't apply there. And she saw my husband and she looked at him and said, "Hi, Dad." And then he walked around the room and walked around the table and sat in front of her, just like you are to me, or I am to you. And she looked at him and said, "Who are you?" So now he's like freaking out because she's not recognizing him. All of a sudden they call code blue on her, take us out of the room. Her sugar was so low, wasn't monitoring. Her blood pressure was extremely low. Her heart rate was racing like just 200 miles an hour. They got her stable and they realized that was not the problem. So they brought her up to the ICU. From that day to the next day, she was not coherent. She was not making much sense. The day after that, she wound up in a catatonic state. 3 days after that, she wound up in a coma. They had no idea what was going on. They did spinal taps, they did MRIs, they did CAT scans. They couldn't figure out anything. A nurse at the hospital told one of the neurologists, "Have you ever heard of Brain on Fire?" It's a book that I think a New York Post writer, Susanna, wrote, that this specific thing happened to her, and they made it into a Netflix movie. And he said, no. So he went to research it, and he found out it's autoimmune encephalitis is what they were talking about. And he obviously knew what that was, but he didn't realize, what the situation was, and how she reacted to that autoimmune encephalitis was kind of how my daughter was reacting to whatever was going on with her. So they did another spinal tap and sent it off, but to the Mayo Clinic. But as anybody knows, cultures take a very long time to come back. So at that time they did IVIG, which is something that can help somebody with autoimmune encephalitis. It did nothing. Then they tried plasma replacement, which started working. Actually, on the third time, she had opened her eyes when I came in the morning, and she followed me around her bed, and I was ecstatic. But at that point, the neurologist there said, "Listen, we want to transfer her to Jefferson Hospital in Philly, a bunch of neurologists there that may help her with whatever's going on, if that is the case," which they still didn't know. Come about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, they did come back that it was autoimmune encephalitis. But until then, the doctor poking and prodding her, even looking to see if she had mad cow disease. They had no idea. But when she did wake up, she couldn't move, because during her coma, her body postured so much and it was so tense for so long that she couldn't use any of her muscles. The reason of that is because the autoimmune encephalitis went to the part of her brain called the basal ganglia part, which is motor skills. Now, autoimmune encephalitis goes to different parts of the brain, of course, and hers was specifically motor skills. So when she woke up, we didn't even know she was going to be herself. Thank God she was, as the smart ass she was. We gave her a paper with alphabet on it, and she pointed out letters to make words, and the first one she said was bitch. So I knew that she was okay. She had her personality still. At least she was still herself. Because smart ass, that's how we trained her. But nevertheless, she had a long road, and she still does, unfortunately. My husband was devastated. There were so many times I saw him just walk away because he didn't want anybody to see him cry. He was just devastated. His little girl was having to go through all of this. Well, that wasn't the last of it either, unfortunately. As I took some time off to take care of my daughter, I still worked, but worked a lot less to take care of my daughter while my husband worked. He was the main breadwinner at the time. So it was best for me to stay with my daughter. So go to now 2024, June 27th, actually, of 2024. We had just gotten back from a Niagara Falls weekend. So we went to Niagara Falls with family friends of ours. And we went, he was on vacation that week. So we went for a motorcycle ride. We were going to go to our office, or my office, excuse me. I had something real quick to do, and then we were going to go out to dinner and spend the night, just us two. So we went out on the motorcycle, got about 1.5 miles away from the house, and a tow truck made a left into us. And unfortunately that day, I lost my left leg, but I also lost the love of my life. He died pretty instantly. He saved my life before he died himself. As you see, there are a lot of things that I have gone through in the past 5 years. Autoimmune encephalitis, being a caretaker for my daughter, being now an amputee, being a widow. I think that's one of the hardest. Because everything else I did with him, and we did together. So I think that one's the hardest. But I sit here today being as strong as I can, trying to start this podcast to help others who may be going through any of that and many other things. I don't want this to just be focusing on these things. I want the podcast to actually be focusing on any tragedy, any grief, any trauma that you are going through. I want to help you, and I want everybody to help each other. So from here on in, I will be putting out the podcasts for different scenarios, different reasonings, different little helping hands to help you through whatever tragedy you're going through or any grief that you're going through. And I'm going to put them up as they come along. Anybody who has an idea or anything that you may be going through or you're needing a hardship with, please send me an email. I have not a problem with trying to reach out to other people, get some insight, and make a podcast for that specific situation. It can be as easy as, for instance, when I first became an amputee, I didn't know how to stop the sweat. The sweat is a horrible thing that you have to deal with. And somebody told me to put spray antiperspirant on my residual limb. It actually helped a lot. Doctors don't tell you that, though. We can help each other with these things. And that's what I want this all to be about. So I'm going to keep doing this. And I'm hoping that I can help a few people. Even one, I'd be happy. I'd be happy. I hope that he is proud. He saved my life, and I want to make something good of it. So, this is still spunky. Until next time, have a great day.